Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor at OnPay. Please support them so we can continue to share these stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have with us Matthew Stevens, and he is with CENTEGIX. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, before we get too far into things, tell us about CENTEGIX. How are you serving folks?
Yeah, we innovate technology to save and enrich lives. And we're a software and Internet of Things company that deploys an Internet of Things and wearable panic devices to allow anybody to be able to call for help during an emergency. So one of our most common use cases is actually in education. And we were built specifically to combat the active shooter situation. So we actually protect about 1 in 5 kids in the state of Georgia in public education.
So now, how did this idea come about?
You know, it really was born out of the tragedy in Parkland. And I know we're celebrating, memorializing the 3rd anniversary of that here recently. But, you know, following Parkland, superintendents and those responsible to protect school children really were out looking for solutions, and there wasn't really anything in the market that that really helped to solve that problem. So, you know, we had the audacious idea that if it didn't exist, we could build it. So we've been in business for a little over 4 years, and we were doing predominantly recording video cameras and classroom recording resale before that, and then really pivoted to a product company following Parkland.
So what was kind of how'd you connect the dots where you were like, you know what, we're doing something that might be able to help in this situation?
Yeah, well, we knew that we had a good product market fit when it became obvious to us that, you know, even sizable districts were willing to take a shot on an early stage company simply because there was no reasonable peer out there in the market.
So then when that happened, how did you go about kind of delivering a prototype that would work, or was it just enhancing what you were already doing and just making some tweaks?
Yeah, no, it was a long period of prototyping and, you know, early product development. So, you know, this all comes down to the team. We've got one of the most capable and skilled engineering teams that I've ever worked with, had the good pleasure to work with here at CENTEGIX. And you know, it was, like all discovery is. It's a process of getting smarter every day, and just worked hard through engineering to start developing, you know, using commercially available technologies that exist like Zigbee and Bluetooth technologies, along with, you know, a rapid scalable cloud infrastructure in order to deliver our services. And, you know, well, we certainly had an effective version 1 of our product. We're on to version, 3.5 now. And, we continue to evolve the platform and make it better. And that includes, really moving into additional industry verticals now as well.
And then what industries are you going after now?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the problem with violence in the workspace really is just about a universal problem. So we're pursuing actively the healthcare space. It was surprising to me when I learned that clinical staff are 5 times more likely to be assaulted than teachers, and I just never imagined that would be a problem in hospitals or in emergency rooms, but it happens routinely. So from our perspective, whether we're protecting the classroom or the ER room or, a boardroom, it really doesn't matter. what's unique is the protocols that are run within those industries. So we're moving into education. We've got about a half a dozen customers using our solution there. And as well, we're beginning to move into government buildings. So we've got several government facilities. If you've watched the news lately, you know that government facilities are not immune from a spillover of dysfunction and violence. And what's happened is, a lot of folks in that industry are looking for different ways to protect employees at both a local, state, and federal level within government facilities.
Now, did the pandemic kind of put a pause on the education because so many kids aren't in school right now and they've kind of backburnered this? Or is this a time where they're like, well, now's a good time to implement this when no one's here?
Yeah, both and. Customers who had made a decision to purchase accelerated their deployment plans. So that was good, kind of what I'd call early pandemic for us. But we did notice some slowdown in the pipeline in education. We had plans to diversify into other industry verticals, and we took the slowdown kind of mid to late 2020 as an opportunity to diversify. So that really accelerated our move into healthcare and other verticals. The other thing that we did is we actually innovated a new product. Once we've got this emergency communication network and this location data, we realized that we could actually be relevant in the fight against COVID-19. So we innovated a new product. Our core product is called Crisis Alert. And we innovated a new product called Contact Alert. And Contact Alert, as you'd imagine, is used for contact tracing. So it's a way for us to, help ensure that when two people, somebody's later diagnosed with COVID-19, that we can find out who they've come into contact with while they were at work.
And then, so that's very relevant today's world.
Yeah, absolutely. We found, a tremendous uptick in interest as a result of that product.
So now walk me through what, say a school is interested or a school system is interested in deploying this. What does that look like for them? How is this kind of fit into what they're doing now, or is this kind of intrusive? You got to work with their IT department. Like it sounds like, in any bureaucracy, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people that want to get involved.
Yeah. Well, certainly a lot of people want to be associated with protecting kids. There's no wrongs. You don't want to be on the wrong side of that one. So, Lee, what happens most often, we actually deploy, we're a discrete network. So we deploy without a tremendous footprint on the IT infrastructure. And we did that simply because, there are other products out there that use the schools existing or the government buildings existing Wi-Fi solution, or that rely on a carrier network. But you've been inside buildings where you couldn't get a cell phone signal. And I'm sure that you've been in places where the Wi-Fi was unreliable. So we actually deploy our own infrastructure because it enables our brand promise of 100% campus coverage. So we make sure that our signal can propagate, whether indoors or outdoors, and provide really location precision, even in multi-floor facilities, which those other products that rely on GPS signals and carrier signals can't do. So the deployment is actually pretty easy for us. We can deploy, an experienced team of installers can deploy on average 2 schools in a single install shift. And so we usually start our day after the school lets out for the day, 4:00 or so, and can deploy a district in pretty rapid fashion that way.
And then every teacher gets a badge. Is that how?
Yeah, another brand promise for us is empower everybody, and this was a key finding out of the Parkland Commission. The shooter there was actually noticed before he made entrance into the building by a grounds crew member. And one of the things the commission, or the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission, came out with was that everybody needed the ability to lock a school down in an instant. So seconds save lives during an event like this. There's a casualty every 8 seconds during a mass shooting. And what you want to do is you want to notify everybody immediately that this problem is unfolding and get them to begin to run their protocols. And contemporaneous with that, you want people to be notified, the first responders to be notified so that they can come and put an end to the situation. So we do those two things synchronously and immediately. And the way that we do that is by empowering everybody. And while that's built for the active shooter situation, a severe weather event here in the Southeast, we're no stranger to those. So, the danger that comes with that, we can lock down whether a single school in a district, or if you were responsible for safety within a, multi-school district, you'd have the ability to shelter in place multiple facilities, all with just the push of a button.
And like you said, they could be a shooter, could be a tornado. It doesn't matter, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Environmental conditions. There are times customers of ours have experienced things like a bank robber on foot that the sheriff's department was chasing. And, when that person's loose near a school, they have to go into a modified lockdown and effectively, get the kids off of the playground so there's not a hostage situation, move them into the secure classrooms and really set a secure perimeter by locking all the outside of the doors. And it's important, again, that everybody understands what to do in an instant when that happens. So a lot of different scenarios. It could be a child choking on a grape in the cafeteria and a teacher having to make the decision whether they're going to render first aid or go and get help. And with our solution, because we empower everybody, they don't have to make that either or decision. They can do both and in an instant.
So now, how have you kind of personally changed now that your company is focused in on crisis and incident management? Has that changed you as a human? Yeah,
well, I hope not. I'm also a father of 3, and like about 35% of folks who put their kids on a school bus in the morning, I'm worried about my kids' safety when they go to school. And unfortunately, we live in an increasingly divisive and polarized society, and these, people who are willing to commit these kind of tragic acts. And again, this could be medical emergencies and, the other types of things. Just knowing that somebody is out there trying to solve this problem is heartening to me. But it's also the thing that gets the team up every morning and gets us working on, our core mission, which is innovating technologies. So, we look at this, the team that I'm working with here in CENTEGIX is the best team that I've ever had an opportunity to work with in my career. And if we weren't solving this problem, I'd love to solve a different problem with them. But, it really is the thing that drives us, is creating new technologies that ultimately mitigate the amount of time that it takes to respond to an emergency, whether, again, environmental, like severe weather, or medical, like a compound fracture out on the sports field, or God forbid, acts of violence. We want to respond in an instant and empower everybody to do that.
So what's next for you? Is it just continue diversifying and kind of working with the school systems and healthcare and hospitality industries? That's the future for CENTEGIX?
Yeah, we've got a fairly robust roadmap, both moving into, accretive and additional technologies to support what we're doing with crisis and incident management right now. And as well, the education market, we really estimate is only about 5% penetrated by this type of solution. Shockingly, the events in Columbine, which I think were the first ones to build national conscious about this, were over 20 years ago. And there's not a tremendous number of technologies that we see that are solving problems like this. And, our goal really is not only to focus on education and make sure that every child's protected in school, but create additional technologies that make us more relevant, not only in education, but in other industry verticals. So we would anticipate continued traction in healthcare, hospitality, which we hadn't mentioned yet. But we protect, around about 100,000 hotel rooms across their geographic footprint, which extends from coast to coast. And you will continue to press into to government facilities as well.
Now, is this kind of an American issue, or are countries around the world having similar type problems?
Yeah, well, right now we're solving the problem here in the U.S., but there's certainly medical emergencies, everywhere across the globe, and then there's severe weather events everywhere across the globe. We've certainly seen some acts of, whether you call them acts of, terrorism or just the rogue individual who wants to make a headline for themselves. We've seen that in other countries as well. So, unfortunately, I don't think that this is an American only problem. I think that this is a condition of the heart problem.
So what can we be doing to help you? What do you need more of right now? Do you need more investors? Do you need more kind of the education systems to be aware of this and to, kind of educate themselves about this solution? How can we help you?
Yeah, well, we exist to innovate technology to save and enrich lives. So what we need more of is people to protect. So we right now protect about 1.1 million people across 13 different states. And, to the extent that somebody would like better protection for whether they're kids in the classroom or workers in an office or folks in a government facility, we'd love to talk to them. It's what we exist to do.
Now, is it mainly through municipalities, or do private firms are also calling you specifically just to solve the problem of their own campus?
Yeah, there are some private individuals, some private companies who have made contact with us. Not an area of focus just yet for us, but certainly, if you think about the more high risk facilities that are more subject to an attack from the outside, I think that those are a perfect use case for us. So I think about that like folks involved in law enforcement or in the legal system, where they may be creating folks who are not necessarily friends of the firm, or those who have a particular security need because of the business that they're involved in. Unfortunately, again, I think that the events of the last year and a half here in the United States have shown us that whether a retail facility, a commercial building, or a government center, the ability for a broader issue to spill over into the workplace is certainly there for everybody.
Well, if somebody wanted to learn more, have a more substantive conversation with you or somebody on your team, what's the website?
CENTEGIX.com, CENTEGIX.com. And there's a contact us form there. We'd love to have you fill it out, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
Lee, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio. And remember, this work could not be done without the support of our sponsor, OnPay. Please support them so we can continue to share these important stories.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.